Okay, guys, sorry I lost you before. This is part two of the Djokovic Olympic disaster. And so, if you're just joining us or if you've never seen me before, my name is Pete from Crunch Time Coaching. I'm a tennis coach online, but I like to comment on what's happening on the tour. And I said, Djokovic, I didn't think should play the Olympics. I thought that the risk reward was not worth it. And all the things I was concerned about seem like they're now happening. I said, hey, Djokovic, if you do this, you might get really, really tired. Well, he claims that one of the reasons why he lost is he got exhausted, that he's suffering from exhaustion. I said, what if he gets injured? He says, I'm not dealing with one injury, I'm dealing with multiple injuries. So it's like the worst possible nightmare. And now he also, I'm sure your confidence is shaken because not only did you lose, you didn't even medal. And now also, again, there's another reason for people to not like Djokovic because the way he lost, he again lost his temper and started throwing his rackets and things like that. And I said on the last live stream they were just on, it's like Djokovic's like the Larry David of tennis, where lots of times it's well intentioned. He's trying to do the right thing, but it just comes off wrong. I mean, Djokovic was trying to do a lot of good things here. He was trying to play for his country, which he loves, and win a medal for them. So he was trying to be patriotic. He was trying to accomplish something that, if he could pull it off, would have been a huge story, a huge positive story for tennis. And that he won the Golden Slam. He won all the majors. He won the most Grand Slams ever with 21. Wins the Golden Slam, winning 4, and then the Olympics. And I think that that would have catapulted his year to not only the best year in tennis, but the best year in all of sports. And it all blew up in his face. And I was saying that, yes, if you win the Olympics, it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. But it is the ultimate cherry on top. And it's at the end of the day, not that important. It's really not that important. And that if you go and try and do this, you might get tired, you might get injured. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and I want you guys to comment, especially all the ones. Before I share the screen, here were all my counter arguments that people would say. Don't be ridiculous. It will be easy. It's only 2 out of 3 sets. No one else is playing it. He's the ultimate patriot. He's doing it for his country. He's going to pull it off, no problem. He's got plenty of time to recover. He doesn't have plenty of time to recover. Now he's got like almost no time to recover, and we'll get to that in a second. Okay. He should play, but only singles. Yeah, why was he playing mixed doubles and doubles? Well, what was that about? It was just a bat. Who was ever in his think tank? Like, I love Goran Ivanisevic. He seems like a really great guy. He's intense. But he didn't look like the smartest guy out there. I mean, I think who was ever advising him, it was maybe this too much macho advice. Wasn't really thinking. It was checkers, not chess. It's like, ooh, let's go win the Olympics and let's go win the U.S. Open. Right? Nadal is more playing chess. He's like, all right, I'm tired. I need a break. I'm not going to play the Olympics, but I realize I haven't played for a while by skipping Wimbledon. And so I'm going to start the hard court season early and go play in DC. Then go play in Cincinnati. Then I'm going to be peaking for the US Open. That's chess, guys. What Djokovic did and what all the Djokovic fans, who I am a Djokovic fan, by the way, but I was looking more out for Djokovic than you were. You know, all the Djokovic fans who made it seem like somebody's so easy. It was bad advice. It was bad advice. And now let me share the screen. Let me show you. This is exactly all the things that Djokovic is saying. I'm like damn Nostradamus. Because I said it before it happened. I said all these things before it happened, guys. You can go back and watch my live streams. Okay, so subscribe to my channel, watch my live streams. First of all, let me just scroll up here because unfortunately, poor Djokovic, this is what everybody's going to remember. Okay, All the Djokovic fans wanted Djokovic to be remembered for winning the Golden Slam. Now what's going to happen is they're going to remember this poor little ball kid so scared that Djokovic threw his racket, and they're going to look at this angry face, and they're going to look at this smashed up racket, and they're going to call him the worst sport ever, right? Just a shame. Djokovic has now claimed he's suffering from a number of injuries as well as exhaustion after he lost to Carreño Busta for the bronze medal. So here's what he says right here. Speaking after the match, yes, B2 is very excited about my broadcast. After the match, 34-year-old, not spring chicken, not 24-year-old, 34-year-old Djokovic, I'm dealing with injuries, not one, more than one. I hope that it won't stop me from playing the US Open, which is my next big goal. I don't regret coming here and giving it my all. How can I have regrets? It's normal when you are at the Olympic Games representing your country. Unfortunately, for the third time at the Olympics, I'm losing the semifinals. I won a medal only once. I mean, only a medal. But for my standards and expectations and wishes, not an ideal outcome. Okay, so what he's saying is basically mission not accomplished. And now I might have bitten off more than I can chew, which is exactly what I said. People today on the internet take things so literally. I said, Djokovic going to do this, it might be a little bit of a greedy move. I didn't mean Djokovic is greedy in the sense that, he's a jerk and he's so power hungry, and it's not that kind of greedy. It's just like you're biting off more than you can chew. Maybe you should think this through, right? Because I don't care, guys, what it looks like. If you thought he was 100% healthy after Wimbledon, he wasn't 100% healthy after Wimbledon. I can guarantee you he was a little bit nicked up and banged up. You don't win the Australian Open. You don't go and remember his clay court season? Remember that one day against where he was down a set in the break to Tsitsipas. Then he came back and it turned into an epic match and he beat Tsitsipas. Then he had to play another match and he won that. And then he had to play Nadal the next day, which he brought to 3 sets. Just that's exhausting. Then you turn around and you go to the French Open. And what do you do at the French Open? You get down 2 sets against Musetti. You win that match. You play one of the greatest sets ever against Nadal, that third set where it was 7-6, one of the best sets ever played in tennis. Exhausting. You're beating the king of clay. What a Herculean effort to go out there on clay and beat Nadal. Don't tell me that doesn't take something out of you. Okay? Then you get to the finals against Tsitsipas. You're down 2 sets and you win 6-4 in the 5th. Then you got to turn around and then you got to go and play on the grass, complete opposite surface. You win that. And then you got to get on a plane. And you see what? Now all of a sudden you all see my point? That's exhausting. He's exhausted. And for all the people saying you got plenty of time, no, you don't. You don't have plenty of time to do this, because now, really, to do this right, what it really takes is the proper amount of rest and recovery, which he doesn't have time to do, healing your body, getting your mind right, refocusing, figuring out a way to get hungry again and get up, start hitting the ball again, feeling the ball, right? Then go play a tournament or two, and then you go into the tournament, the Grand Slam, you go into that fresh. Now what he's done is he had that opportunity, and now it's going, and you've had a long semester at school, and you put off a 30-page term paper till the night before, and you got to pull an all-nighter and hope that you can turn in an A+ performance. That's what Djokovic is now up against. That's what he's done to himself. Because I'm running a clinic. I'm running 2 clinics out in Cincinnati where they're playing the Western Southern Open. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be doing clinics. We're going to go to the tournament. And so I'm obviously not playing, but I feel like I've got a lot of work to do. I feel like I don't have much time to prepare. I feel like it's a lot to do, and I'm not playing. Djokovic, really, to give himself the best chance, is he should play that Cincinnati tournament. So somehow between now and like next weekend, not this weekend, but the next weekend, it starts on a Sunday. He's got to get there, heal all his injuries, get his mind right, like forget about the Olympics, and then he's got to start competing, and then he's got to go in the US Open. It's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time at all. It was a big miscalculation. And he went from being the odds on favorite, where I think if he, and again, why am I this concerned? Because if you win the US Open, guys, the Olympics don't matter. The Olympics, that's what I've been saying. The Olympics just the cherry on top. It's not that big a deal. Because if he wins the US Open, now he's at 21 majors. He surpasses Nadal and Federer. He wins the Grand Slam. End of story. He's the GOAT. There's no debate left anymore if he did that and if he still does it, right? Best year ever, winning 4 in a row in the same year, surpassing the other GOATs, being #1 in the world, greatest year ever. Okay, now all that is in jeopardy because, and let me just put it to you this way, if you don't believe me, like be honest. Go watch Nadal practicing at Washington. I don't know how he's going to do there, but I can tell you on the practice court, he looks really fresh. Okay. So Nadal, who decided I'm going to skip Wimbledon, I'm going to skip the Olympics, I'm going to get my mind and my body right, and I'm going to compete for the US Open. Why did he make that decision? Because he wants to get 21. Because now all of a sudden we know how short-sighted everybody is, because all it takes for him to do is go in there and win 21. And people all of a sudden are forgetting that Djokovic has won 3 majors this year. And they're going to start talking about, well, Nadal has 21. He has the most all by himself. Now you have to say he's the GOAT, right? Now it's a debate again. Djokovic still might be the GOAT. I mean, who knows? It's all just an open debate. But it's a debate again. If Djokovic won the US Open this year, there's no debate. There's no mathematical debate you can come up with to say that Djokovic is not the greatest. But if Nadal wins the US Open, you can make an argument like, dude, the guy's got 21 Grand Slams. You know, he's the GOAT. He's the only one who has 21. And I think it's going to be tough because if people like, here, Pete, put up $500, which I'm not a gambler, but if they said, you got to put up $500 tomorrow, Djokovic's going to go play Nadal first round at Washington, D.C., who are you going to pick? I'd say I'm going to put my money on Nadal. He looks fresh. He looks ready to go. Djokovic is battling injuries. He's physically exhausted. You know, I don't know. I think that I'd have to put my money on Nadal tomorrow because Djokovic has just been through a lot, you know, all year. And so that's where we're at in my mind. And let me know what you guys think. In my mind, going into the US Open, what has now changed, you know, if Djokovic went straight from from Wimbledon to the US Open, played Cincinnati, even if he didn't win Cincinnati, but he was fresh, he wasn't injured, I'm putting my money on Djokovic all day long. But now I think Nadal is the favorite to win the Open. Let me know what you guys think. Who's the favorite? Comment here, comment below in the comment section when you watch the replay. I'd say Nadal is the favorite. I'd say Djokovic becomes a wild card. You just don't know. These guys appear to be superhuman until they're not. Okay, Djokovic looked unbeatable until you beat him, right? His last 2 matches, he went down pretty easy. Why? Because he's tired. He's injured. Okay, so he's not superhuman. He's not a robot like everybody thinks he is. He is a human being. Okay, so because Djokovic is human, not because he's not amazing and he's not the best, but because he's a human being, not superhuman, because he's not a robot, you know, I'm looking at this going, Djokovic could win it all. He could recover. He could rest and recover somehow. He didn't know it's not ideal rest and recover. He could somehow pull it off and peak again for the US Open. I think it's a tall order, but it could happen. Or he could be so tired and so injured, he doesn't even play. or he loses in the first, second, third round, or he finally gets to a Nadal in the semifinals even again and loses, or loses to a Medvedev who maybe starts to play better at the U.S. Open, or a Tsitsipas, right? He could lose to one of these players. So that's what I see for Djokovic. Nadal, I look at him as the favorite. I think he's going to be fresh. I think he's going to be healthy. I think he's going to perform well. Federer, again, as much as I love Federer, absolute wild card. Have no idea what's going to happen. Don't know if he's going to play. Don't know if he's going to lose first round. Don't know if he's going to get to the quarters again. Don't know if somehow he gets to the finals. I mean, have no idea. No idea how Federer's going to do. Medvedev, no idea how Medvedev is going to do. No idea. Tsitsipas is looking like a good bet, you know, after that. After the Australian Open, there was many indoor tournaments and outdoor tournaments. And they started playing the clay, and Tsitsipas was gaining all this momentum. Like, this guy's going to be in every final. This guy's going to be. He has the most wins on the tour, by the way, Tsitsipas at 40, but not lately. So that's how hot he was. Even as cold as he's been lately, he still has the most wins on the tour because he's winning so much. Now, Tsitsipas, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what anybody's going to do. The only guy who I feel confident that I kind of feel like I'm pretty sure he's going to do awesome. Pretty sure you can pencil him in for the semifinals, maybe even finals, maybe even just give him the trophy right now is Nadal. Nadal, you know, he doesn't get the credit he deserves, but he's been awesome at the U.S. Open. He does well at the U.S. Open. Djokovic, who's great on hard court, doesn't do great at the U.S. Open. Why does he not do great? Doesn't even have to worry. The Olympics are not even there most years, but yet Djokovic doesn't do great. Why doesn't that happen since he is so great on hard court? Djokovic, to me, I think he's the greatest player ever, but definitely think he's the greatest hard court player, best hard court player out of anybody. Well, why not at the U.S. Open? Why doesn't he do as good? Because he's tired, because he's always winning the Australian Open, because he's always going deep at the French Open, and he's usually winning Wimbledon. That's why he doesn't do so great at the U.S. Open, not because he's not good on hard courts, because he's tired, because he's not a robot. And now all of a sudden, boom, there he is. He's playing the Olympics. Checkers, not chess, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Let me read some comments here. Let's see here. The Olympics is only once every 4 years. There are 16 slams in the same period. Not important, question mark. Yeah, because the Olympics are once every 4 years, guys. Here's why. If you don't understand why the Olympics aren't important, first of all, let me just ask you guys this. Everybody who thinks the Olympics are important, how big a deal was it that Zverev won 6-1, 6-3 in the Olympic final? How memorable of moment, an Olympic moment, is that going to be? Are people going to remember that, or Suni Lee coming and winning after Simone Biles, you know, had her drama? And again, if I were a gymnast and I freaked out that I couldn't land things and I could maybe injure myself, I'd pull out too. So I'm not blaming that, but it was a big story. And then Suni Lee comes in and wins the medal. People are going to remember that for years, forever. They're going to remember that. They're going to remember some of the swimming competitions. They're going to remember the runners. They're not going to remember the tennis. I barely remember who Zverev beat in the finals. It's a non-story at the Olympics. Tennis, like it or not, guys, is a non-story at the Olympics. No one cares. Okay? No one cares. So yes, it's not a big deal. It isn't a big deal. The Olympics were a bore fest. The Olympics, when it comes to tennis, not everything else, I'm just purely talking tennis, it just laid an egg. The Olympics, we lost Medvedev. He went out. Tsitsipas went out. Djokovic doesn't medal. The finals was 6-1, 6-3. No one's going to remember that final. Yeah, the Olympics are not a big deal. The only thing that people are going to remember about tennis in the Olympics was that Djokovic didn't win and that Djokovic had a temper tantrum. The Olympics was not a good look for tennis, guys. It wasn't. And now if Djokovic does not win the U.S. Open, it's going to be a terrible mistake he made. because he probably would have won it without tiring himself out and not getting exhausted. I mean, really, that's who can beat Djokovic today. The only person, when Djokovic is at the top of his game, no one can beat him. But when Djokovic gets a little hurt, a little tired, that's who can beat him, himself. Okay? And, I mean, is the Olympics important? The person who just said what Zverev did and won the Olympics, do you view that at the same level as winning 2 sets, 6-1, 6-3? Do you view that as the same level of importance as winning Wimbledon, as winning the US Open, as winning, French Open, Australian Open? It's not even close. You can maybe put it on par with, winning a Masters 1000 where you get excited. It was a big tournament. It's like winning Indian Wells. Okay. Winning the Olympics is like winning Indian Wells. Everybody for like a week is going to remember that you won Indian Wells. Oh, that was a big tournament Zverev won. He won the Indian Wells. But no one's going to care or remember that he won the Olympics. I'm sorry, guys. I really hate to put it to you that way. You're a fake. Anybody who knows anything about tennis knows about broken rackets. What? Subscribe to your channel. You're a fake. Anybody who knows anything about tennis knows about broken rackets. I don't even understand that. What is your point? I did say, I mean, first of all, you want to call me a fake. I'm the one who said weeks ago that Djokovic shouldn't have played. And I said, because he might get hurt, he might get exhausted. And Djokovic, what's he saying today? I'm hurt and I'm exhausted. And you want to call me a fake. Meanwhile, there was comment after comment of, hey, he's got plenty of time. It's not a big deal. It's going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be great. And you want to call me a fake. Give me a break. I did say on the last live stream that this could end up in tears for Djokovic. That's right, Ollie Payton, you did. And you know your stuff. He said he played the tournament on medication because of multiple injuries and that his participation in the US Open is in doubt. Exactly. Me and Ollie got it right. All the supposed Djokovic fans who thought it was going to be a walk in the park and he's got plenty of time, you guys got it wrong. I said it was a huge mistake for him to go for the gold, says Floodland 9999. Jay, look, Golden Slam or Grand Slam, hindsight is 2020. Yeah, you could say hindsight's 2020, Jay, look, but I had the hindsight. I had the foresight. I said it. I said that if I was managing Djokovic, I would advise him not to play the Olympics because it's not as big a deal as the people who got so giddy and wanted him to do it. It's not as big a deal as you think it is because nobody cares about the tennis Olympics. The people who watch the Olympics, guess what they get excited about? They get excited about gymnastics because it's amazing. That's amazing during the Olympics, the gymnastics, especially the women's gymnastics. Okay, let's be honest. People turn on the TV for the women's gymnastics, not much the men's gymnastics. Start rattling me off some men gymnasts right now. Start naming some names. I can't name one. Okay, so they get excited about women's gymnastics. They get excited about men's and women's swimming. They get excited about men's and women's track, more so men's track, I'd say, if I'm being 100% real with you all. Okay, that's what people remember. And they do remember basketball if the US loses. They'll remember that. That's it. That's all people remember about the Olympics. They don't care about tennis at the Olympics. And Zverev winning the Olympics is nothing like winning Wimbledon. Nothing. It's not even close. I'm surprised at Nadal putting in his 2 cents. What did Nadal say? I don't know. If Rafa can avoid Tsitsipas and Zverev, I don't know. He can definitely. I mean, Rafa is the favorite. If Rafa wins the U.S. Open, he will tie Fed, Sampras, and Connors with 5 titles. He would have the most Grand Slams in 2 of the 4 slams. That's right. So I Peyton saying that. So guess what people are going to start saying? Guess the conversation is going to if Nadal wins, the conversation is going to quickly shift from Djokovic being the GOAT to all of a sudden people are going to start making cases that Nadal, in fact, is the GOAT. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, like it or not, fair or not. That's what's going to happen. Tennis is a non-starter at the Olympics, except within the tennis community. I agree. Thank you, says Patrick. I agree, Patrick. Murray winning was huge. No, it wasn't. Come on. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice cherry on top. Murray winning the Olympics was huge for Murray. Okay. It was huge for Murray. Why? I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me, guys. Why was Murray winning the Olympics huge for Murray winning the Olympics? Because he's so damn far behind Rafa, Djokovic, and Roger. Murray's so far behind them that him winning the Olympics had to be something that we got excited about to kind of like keep the conversation big four. Okay. Would you even argue that it's a big four anymore? No. I mean, he was just there for a blip on their career of everybody. I mean, he had a great long career, but it goes to show how ridiculously long Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer stay at the top. Australian Open was a second-class tournament until the 1990s, but it's not anymore. It's a Grand Slam, so people value it now. And I don't think the Olympics is ever going to be up there with an Australian Open. It's not, because there's too many other awesome stories that are always going to overshadow, because it only comes around every 4 years. Because it only comes around every 4 years, the gymnastics is super exciting. The track is super exciting. The stakes are much higher for those people. They make one mistake, they're done for another 4 years before they're in the spotlight again. Tennis, you just get to go play the US Open. So it's not going to be as big a deal. It's not going to be as big a deal. Let's see what else you got to say. I'd say Rafa is the top pick at the US Open. I agree. I agree with you, Andrew. All in all, have respect for him for wanting to win for his country. Most would have skipped the Olympics. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with that. I agree with this. I think you got to give Djokovic a lot of respect. I think it was really cool. I think he was listening to a lot of other people in his decision to play the Olympics. I think he got lost in the moment and wasn't thinking. It's like, I'm going to go play for my country. I'm going to win it, and I'm going to win the Golden Slam. And instead, it ended up blowing up in his face. That's why I say he's like the Larry David. If you've ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, lots of times Larry gets this idea to where he's going to make things better, and he ends up making things way worse. And he ends up sticking his foot in his mouth. And so what happened with Djokovic is he had the best of intentions. He's like, I'm going to do my country proud. And I'm going to make all my fans super excited that I'm going to go do this. And I'm going to end up the GOAT at the end of the year. And no one can debate it. And instead what happened is, even on our last even on our last stream that I had to stop, someone wrote how he was the worst sportsman out of the 10,000 athletes at the Olympics, which is kind of hard to argue that he wasn't, because he lost his temper, he threw his racket, he had a meltdown. It's all the only way you can put it. And that's what people are going to remember about this Olympics for Djokovic. That it was a failure, that he threw his racket, that he acted like a baby. That's what they're going to remember. All right, let's see here. Viewership is down 45% this year. Does that mean the importance of the Olympics, gold in general, is down 45% this year? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's my point. I think my point is that tennis isn't a big deal at the Olympics. That people don't get excited about people win the Olympics. Winning the Olympics is it pumps up your stats if you can do it. It definitely gives you respect that you did it, but it isn't as big a deal as people. It's so far beneath winning a Grand Slam title in our sport. That's what. Why do you think Novak Djokovic will not be able to win? So Andrew says, I have a question for you. Why do I think Novak Djokovic will not be able to win? Okay, Andrew, here's your answer. Because Djokovic, after he lost, said, I'm exhausted and I'm injured and I don't even know if I can play the US Open. That's why he might not win, because the man himself is saying, I'm exhausted, I'm hurt, and I don't even know I'm going to play. I mean, so why would I say he's got a great chance of winning? Now, don't come back to this broadcast if he does win and say, oh, Pete said he couldn't win. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is Djokovic has made his life a lot harder. He somehow, I don't know how bad the injuries are, he somehow can get great treatment and the injuries hopefully can go away. He certainly can get himself motivated. He's got no problem getting motivated. The motivation's super high. He can play great tennis. He can have a good draw like he did at Wimbledon. Not that he needs a good draw, but I think he needs some easy matches in the beginning of the tournament and play his way in. He can win. But why do I think his chances have gone down? Because he's saying he's hurt. Because he's saying he's tired. That's why. It's kind of obvious. All right, let's see what else. I think Novak is the favorite to win the U.S. Open. He's not the favorite to win the U.S. Open, guys. He's not the favorite. How can you say he's the favorite? He's saying he doesn't even know he's going to play. That's like saying Federer's the favorite. Does anybody think Federer's the favorite to win the U.S. Open, or are you worried he might not play? Are you worried he might lose in the first round? I was worried that Federer, because there was so many question marks, that he might have lost first round at Wimbledon, and he almost did. But he got to the quarterfinals, got to the final 8. That's pretty damn good for a 40-year-old. Okay? But Federer's a total question mark right now. I think Nadal is the favorite because Nadal played chess, not checkers. Nadal took his time after the French Open. He got his body healthy. He's deciding to play on the hard court season early because he knows he needs a little more tennis on the hard court than normal because he didn't play Wimbledon. He took time off, and now he wants to peak. This whole game is about peaking. This whole game is about not getting too tired too soon. The Olympics, not a good thing for that. It's a bad thing for that. Especially after you just went Australian, French, Wimbledon, turnaround, Olympics. It was too much. It's too much. I feel like it hurts Novak more because he actually called the Olympics the 5th slam in 2016. Yeah, well, people can call it whatever they want. I mean, people don't really remember it very much. They just don't. I mean, how many Olympic matches do you honestly remember? We're like, oh man, like you have to think harder. When you just start to think about the greatest matches you've ever watched, you're going to think about what? You're going to think about Nadal, Federer, Wimbledon. You're going to think about Djokovic, Nadal at Australian Open. You're going to think about Johnny Mack and Borg at Wimbledon. You're going to think about these things. U.S. Open, what are you going to think about? I still think about McEnroe Connors U.S. Open. I think about Super Sunday, right? I think about the Grand Slams. I don't start thinking about the Olympics. My brain doesn't go to the Olympics when I'm a tennis person. You can be honest with yourself. When you start thinking about matches and the history of tennis, your brain doesn't go to the Olympics, guys. It doesn't. Like if you think about Agassi's career, you think about when he won the French Open, right? He came back and beat, I think it was a guy named Medvedev. You think about him beating Goran Ivanisevic at Wimbledon and dropping to his knees. You think about him winning the U.S. Open, right? You think about Pete Sampras, Agassi. That's what you think about. That's what you think about. And then you go, oh, yeah, and Agassi also won a gold medal. Who did he beat to win the gold medal? What was the score? If you know that, you're lying. If you know that, good for you. You're not lying. If you know that, you're good for you. But I can tell you what, you're in a rare class. You're in a rare class if you can tell me who Agassi beat, what the score was and how memorable that really was. No, you just know it's a stat. You know it's a stat. It's not near as important as the majors. There are two sports for the Olympics, which isn't a big deal: football, soccer, and tennis. Okay, yeah, right. And why isn't soccer a big deal at the Olympics? Because why? Because they can just go around. They have a million leagues. They have a million tournaments. That's why soccer isn't as big a deal. Okay, especially men's soccer. Women's soccer, more a big deal. Women's soccer, more a big deal at the Olympics than men's soccer. Because men's soccer's got so much professional soccer where people are getting paid millions of dollars all around the world to play all kinds of leagues that the Olympics isn't as big a deal. Patrick says, Larry David, OMG, amazing. Medvedev threw his racket too, pretty sure. LOL. Where are the headlines on that? Yeah, the headlines aren't there because Medvedev's not a star like Djokovic. Why aren't the headlines there talking about Medvedev? Because Medvedev doesn't have a Grand Slam title yet, guys. No one outside of us gives a crap about Medvedev. Most people don't even know Medvedev exists. That's why there's no headlines about Medvedev. Medvedev wasn't playing for any history at the Olympics. That's why there's no headlines about Medvedev throwing his racket. Because he hasn't done anything for people to remember him in the history of the game, where Djokovic has. Djokovic has lost, but I think he has won motivation for the U.S. Open. Do you really think by Djokovic losing at the Olympics that that's given him extra motivation to win the? Do you think he needs any more motivation to win? Do you think he needs to go to the Olympics to get motivated to win the U.S. Open? Guys, there's no good argument you can make how the Olympics was a good move for him. He might win the US Open in spite of what he did at the Olympics, in spite of his decision to go to the Olympics, not because of, in spite of. He will win the US Open in spite of what happened at the Olympics. That's really it. You don't go, oh, thank God he played those Olympics because that gave him motivation to do well at the US Open. No, 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 no. He doesn't need any extra motivation to win the US Open. He knows what's on the line. It's a Grand Slam title. It puts him at 21. It puts him as the greatest player ever. He doesn't need any more motivation. He doesn't need to go embarrass himself at the Olympics, is what he did ended up doing. He didn't need to go do that. That didn't help his career. What happened at the Olympics did not help his career at all. It only hurt it. It only reaffirmed for people who don't like Djokovic that he's a brat, that he has no sportsmanship, all the things that really aren't true. Djokovic is a really good dude. I think he's a good sportsman. I think he's a class act who occasionally has a meltdown. Okay. And I don't blame him for that. But a lot of people are blaming him for that. A lot of people are upset at him for losing his temper. Next Olympics going to be played in Paris on the red dirt. Who knows? Rafa might stick around and try and burst Djokovic's bubble there too. I don't think. Here's another thing. I don't think Nadal's going to stick around just to play the Olympics on dirt. That won't be. He's not even thinking, oh, I got to stay around to play the Olympics. I mean, he might be around, but that's not the reason why he's going to stay. It's not going to be his sole purpose. Djokovic needed this disaster. Now he can focus on the US Open. So your argument is he needed to risk exhaustion and injury, which both happened, so he can get motivated to play the US Open. That is your argument. Come on. Okay, expat. I love this. First of all, I know my opinions are strong. I'm really not mad at anybody. It's a healthy debate, so I hope you're not taking this personally. But if you're going to write things down, and I disagree with them, I'm going to strongly disagree with them. So Pete goes, expat says, Pete, humbly disagree with your assessment. Djokovic should have skipped the Olympics. In the end, he ended up hurting himself. He needs. Wait, what? That's been in my assessment the whole time. Pete, humbly disagree with your assessment. Djokovic should have skipped the Olympics and he ended up hurting himself. He needs to unwind and play and skip the Masters events to be fit for the US Open. Are you saying you disagree with my assessment of that, but you don't really have a counter argument, or are you thinking that's what I said? No, that's exactly what I said he should have done. I said he should have skipped the Olympics and rested, played a Masters event, and went into the US Open fresh. I mean, that's exactly what I've been saying. I completely understand him breaking rackets. You are so close to achieving your dreams and can't bring your best tennis. Your mind, but your body doesn't follow. I would feel the same way as well. Yeah, I agree with it. I agree with that, Penka. I agree with that. I'm not judging him at all for throwing his rackets. I mean, look, guys, I've thrown my rackets. I don't want to admit it, but I've done it. I've thrown my rackets. Tennis is a very frustrating game, and especially when you become exhausted. I'm sure he's out there going, man, he sees it. He sees the game isn't there. He sees medals slipping away. And you can bet all kinds of emotions are going through his head. Like, first of all, you're just pissed off at the match. You're pissed off you can't make that down the line shot. Then you start probably going further down the rabbit hole of like, man, I shouldn't even been here. I shouldn't even be playing right now. I'm exhausted. I'm hurt. Maybe he even starts to blame some of the people in his head. He might be thinking, man, I shouldn't have listened to Goran. Goran told me I should have played. I knew I shouldn't have played. Or maybe he's thinking, why am I so stupid? Why didn't anybody talk me out of this? Like, who knows what he's thinking? But we do know what he's thinking right now. We know what he's thinking right now. Again, I'll read exactly what he's thinking. This is not from me. This is from Djokovic. I'm dealing with injuries. Not one, more than one. I hope that won't stop me from the US Open, which is my next big goal. I mean, guys, it's only human to, start kicking yourself. Have you ever done something during the day where you're like, I don't know if I should do this. It's really risky, but I think I can do it. I think I'm going to do it. And then you go and do it, and it ruins the rest of your day. Don't you start getting pissed at yourself? Don't you start going, man, why did I do that? So stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that. I knew it was too much. Why didn't I just do the other thing at the end of the day that was more important? How many times have you done that in your life over petty, trivial things? I do it on a daily basis. So I'm like, Pete, why did you go do that when you should have skipped that and you should have done that instead? Because that's way more important, right? That's all I'm saying here, guys. All right, let's see what else you guys have to say. Then I'm going to get out of here because I have other things I need to do today. People talk as if Novak has never lost a big match. How has he recovered from those losses? That's not my point. And again, I'm not saying that Djokovic can't win the US Open. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is he took a big risk by doing this, which he's admitting that yes, it's once every 4 years. So the pros are not used to this. Tennis is the mother of all repetition, and especially these pros who are experts at winning majors, they have a certain cadence the whole year. How can Djokovic turn around and win Wimbledon after the French Open? Because he's used to it. He's worked out his schedule where he knows just what to do to get it done. It's a lot harder to do that with the Olympics when you prepare every 4 years for it. And then you've got to go French Open, Wimbledon, Olympics, US Open. Not used to that. He's not used to that. Obviously, he's not used to that. He's saying he's not used to that. He's saying he's exhausted. I can guarantee you that if he would have won Wimbledon and waited till Cincinnati, I don't think he'd be saying I'm exhausted right now. I don't think he'd be saying I'm injured right now. I don't think he'd be saying, damn, I don't even know if I can play the US Open. I don't think any of that would be being talked about. By who? By him, not me. Him saying that. I just said all this stuff might happen if he plays the Olympics. That's what I said. I said exactly what he's saying before it happened. I said, hey, Djokovic, you might not want to do this. You might be exhausted. What if you get injured? And then you can't pull off the Grand Slam. So maybe you shouldn't do it. That's what I said. Okay? As the kids say, Let's not get it twisted. All right, Novak thought he could win everything. Yes, he did. And why wouldn't you think that way when you are the GOAT? U.S. Open draw will reveal who will win. If Nadal is in the same draw of Nole, Nadal might win versus Nole, but lost the U.S. Well, I don't know about that. I also do not think he is injured as he makes it out to be. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think Stan the Man in this quarter. Joker will be the real Joker at U.S. Open 2021. Not a good example of number one player in the world, is my opinion. Okay. Is Stan healthy? Stan's not going to be a factor at the U.S. Open, guys. Bashkar, I'll see you next week, and I'll talk some sense into you. Bashkar's going to our Cincinnati tournament, or Cincinnati clinic, and I'm going to need to talk some sense into him because things he says on the live stream make no sense. Stan is going to be a non-factor at the U.S. Open. My goodness. Risk it for the Biscuit Olympics. Exactly. Okay, y'all. I'm done. Like it up. Comment. I'm sure there's lots of great comments that you guys can leave when you watch the replay. I look forward to reading them.